This is a podcast or something like that.
Hey, hello. Welcome to the Verbal Journal podcast, episode 80. Trying to put myself together a little bit. Hopefully I look presentable. I didn't have a lot of options today. It's laundry day here at the office. We do laundry day once a month where we get our laundry done, which is always good and a good experience. I personally have a great relationship with the laundry person on our staff. Probably too much to introduce you to them right now without sort of the preparations that we would normally make for a big announcement like that. Maybe at the end of the episode. You know what? Definitely at the end of the episode. So the laundry once a month thing was hard when I started here because normally I have clothes I like to wear every week, honestly, I have clothes I'll wear multiple times a week. You have your favorite clothes. But this is how they do it. And I get it, they want to limit cost. I think laundry is one of the biggest expenses at most companies. Certainly podcasts. I think laundry is definitely one of the biggest ones. So they're limiting costs. They're saying if we do everyone's clothes at once, they also don't separate the whites from the colors, which I thought was something you had to do with laundry. Like I grew up, that was a necessary thing. Donna, the producer here at VJPP Productions, the second P is for production, the first P is podcast. Donna was like, when they started, not when I started, I've been here much longer than Donna, but they were like, they made some like segregation joke, or I guess anti-segregation joke. I don't really know how to call it, but they were like, we don't separate the whites from the colors. And I was like, you're my boss. That's kind of an inappropriate joke to make. And also, I'm still worried about that laundry-wise. Like, why do you do that laundry-wise? Coffee. We'll get to don't worry, we'll get to it. Episode 80. Episode 80. I remember when I got into the 70s, you get to episode 70 and you're like, great, this is fantastic. 71, 72. By the time I was in, 75 was cool. The numbers, I don't like it. Like 79 last episode, it was kind of a cursed number. And that's part of why I think it was such a challenging episode for anyone who watched it. You know what I'm talking about. It had its moments. I think it was cathartic Tundra. That'd be a good band name, Cathartic Tundra. You'd have to explain it so often. People, they like, are you saying cathartic tundra? And you, tundra, cathartic tundra, cathartic, Antarctic, looking at me like, what is this? The musical interlude? Episode 80. So 80 is just a nice round number. 80 is a beautiful number. All my best friends are 80. And I just, I have ADD. You know what I mean? So it's just an all-around great number that I'm really happy about and with. Should we get on quickly to we got a few corrections we have to do. There are a few different types. Sometimes we're doing follow-ups, which we do, later. We got, sometimes we're doing apologies, which I don't recall immediately if we have any of those on the agenda today. And then we have corrections. There's a bit of an apology element to corrections, and there's also a bit of a follow-up element. You could think of a follow-up as a neutral reincarnation, a apology as a sorrowful, or we could say valence-wise negative reincarnation. It's a negative reincarnation because I feel bad when I apologize, or when there was a bad thing that I have to apologize about. But then you could think of corrections. They're like in between. They're like, maybe I made a mistake, I do not admit necessarily that there was a mistake that took place, or certainly not that it was my mistake as the talent and performer here at the podcast. But, maybe there's some degree of mistake. Maybe there's some element of error. But mostly it's just a neutral catching up on the situation. What is that specifically? Let's see here. Okay, so looks like we have a few things here to correct the record on in a sense. So first up, so in the previous episode, it was kind of full of mistakes apparently. The previous episode, so we got a little bit to do here. At 14 minutes and 21 seconds and 14 minutes and 26 seconds, so 2 times in a span of 5 seconds. Of the previous episode, I said Daniel Wrench was the CEO of chess.com, but that was incorrect. He's not the CEO of chess.com. And when I rewatch the episode, I get paid for that. It's part of my job. I technically have to rewatch the episodes, re-listen to them. And it's sort of like they put me in like the Clockwork Orange like headset and like glue my eyes open and stuff. And it's like, it's an ordeal, but you get used to it. Anyways, Daniel Wrench is not the CEO of chess.com. And as soon as I heard myself say that, I was like, is that right? So I looked it up, and as this chess.com webpage pretty kind of, I would say defensively, states, I mean, chess.com has they have a webpage, who is the CEO of chess.com, which I get, okay, because a lot of people make the same mistake I do. So it is reasonable for them to have this. It's funny that the guy has a faux hawk or mohawk. I no hate if you have that, but that's a funny hairdo to have. You can have it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's funny though. And you know that if you have it, you're like, I'm a quirky guy. You know what I mean? Which I don't like. I wish people would just conform to my expectations of them. The current CEO of chess.com is Eric Allabest, who co-founded the company with Jay Severson. They were college friends who reconnected, decided their love of chess. Beautiful. Many people do not know that Eric is CEO of chess.com. A lot of people think that I am Danny Wrench, a co-founder who joined in 2009, is the CEO because he is the face of chess.com. So he's a co-founder, though, even though he joined 4 years later. How do you co-found a company you joined 4 years after it starts? Anyways, it just feels kind of defensive. It's really funny to me. I don't know if he went to Stanford Business School, where he went to class, learned a lot, and met great people. How did he graduate 2 years after he went to Stanford? Oh, it's a business school. My mistake. Yeah, I mean, that checks out. That checks out for how they run their company. And then I go to the hold on. So that was that. So he's not the CEO, blah, 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 bleeb. And this actually, but you might notice something funny, which is they didn't actually say what his position is. They said he's a co-founder and the face of chess.com, but I mean, it might have been worthwhile to say what his position is, right? I mean, co-founder is not like a technical position, right? So it's like, what's your position? Co-founder is like saying you're former world chess champion, like Magnus Carlsen. It's like, the title, like you'll have that title forever, regardless of what your current title is, but what's your current title? So they have this other page, which pay no attention to this. This is just because this is the way they list their players. It doesn't make any sense to have that at the top of the page here. He's retired. His ELO, that's a great ELO, but there's hundreds or thousands of people better than him. But no, I mean, he was a legit player for sure, but he's also a cool guy. That's the thing people don't understand about. Look, I just want to say, I think Danny Wrench is a fairly good person from what I gather. I would not demonize him. I think he seems like he's a business guy, but he like goes to therapy and like wants to be a good person and stuff. That's the vibe I get. I whatever. I don't think he should be commentating, but it makes more sense that he's not the CEO, because that made no sense. I was like, why is the CEO commentating? He is Chief Chess Officer, which is, again, sort of not a title. So, like, what is... He's the chief officer of a fair bit of stuff. You know, I guess we don't need to see his job description. They got his games here. He's always been a funny guy. That's a little bit probably time to take that off the website. You know what I mean? It's probably time to take that off the website. I would think. But, you know, it is what it is. There were a few other things I needed to correct from last episode. Where is that? So, yeah, another thing I got, or I said wrong. I'm not going to say I got it wrong. I said it wrong, even if I didn't mean to. In fairness to confessed former cheater in chess and Grandmaster Hans Niemann, at 20 minutes and 43 seconds and 20 minutes and 45 seconds, so again, at 2 points within 5 seconds, I like to group my mistakes together. I called Maxime Dlugy, who is a grandmaster. Another correction, I wasn't sure if he was a grandmaster. Of course he was. The guy who Hans was this guy was Hans's coach when Hans was 11. He had a grandmaster coach because he was a promising young chess player. Dlugy, I called Dlugy Hans's coach, and really his former coach. He's his former coach, and you know, I was making fun of Hans for saying that guy was never my coach. Oh yeah, when I was 11, he was my coach. When I was 11. But I should have called him still his former coach. It's not fair to call him his coach. That was misleading when I referred to Dlugy as Niemann's coach. Really, I meant former coach. And as someone who cares a lot about the use of the term former, I shouldn't be hypocritical on that point. Doesn't really matter to me whether they're... Oh yeah, I don't care whether their cheating is connected. Like, it's just sort of an interesting coincidence. Yeah, probably this guy didn't teach an 11-year-old Hans Niemann how to cheat, I assume. But it's like also more than just a pure coincidence. You do wonder, like, how were they drawn to each other? How was he influenced by Dlugy? Were there any side comments that endorsed or downplayed cheating? You just wonder. And lastly, around 31 minutes and 20 seconds, I said in the previous episode, totally unrelated to chess now, I said so dissent instead of so discord. I was talking about, you know, like large amounts of money influencing political commentary and how even if it's chaotic, it still sows discord. But I said so dissent, which I mostly meant discord. But that was sort of a mistake that was in collaboration with our marketing team because they didn't want me to promote Discord. Because we've been trying to get the Discord sponsorship and they will just not sponsor this podcast. They've been resolute on that point. And so I've been told I shouldn't even say the word Discord. So that was sort of in the back of my mind. So I do blame the marketing team. Tom. But okay, he's 12. You know what I mean? So I understand. But yeah, that just all the corrections there. Okay. Okay, so next up we have the Word of the Day segment, and I got a little bit of a treat for you, which is a double Word of the Day segment. So put that in your pipe and then take it out of your pipe because smoking is unhealthy. That's what I'd say. Hopefully you know that was a clever inversion of a well-known expression. Word of the day segment. This is not a pipe. This is not a word of the day segment. Verbal journal. Okay, so word of the day is compatibilism, which I learned in, I believe, a Goodreads review, which we got a great Goodreads section coming up after. Segment, my apologies. Compatibilism is the belief that free will and determinism are mutually compatible, and that it is possible to believe in both without being logically inconsistent. For example, I would say that free will is nothing but our conscious experience of deciding what to do, which I know I am experiencing as I write this review, and this experience is not invalidated by the reflection that physical laws made it inevitable that I would want to make these decisions. The determinist part kind of lost me. I don't think we have evidence for that. I think it's a logical leap. Like like everything I'm saying, I'm not necessarily deciding to say it. I can if I want to, like braggadocious. You know what I mean? Like that word just came out of my free will. It was determined by I had to learn the word braggadocious, and I had to like go through my life to be the type of person where that word would be close enough. There's a lot of determining factors outside of my control to make that word in my mind so that I could say it in that way. But that feels like it still could have been a bunch of other words, you know? This is me tackling the issue of free will on the podcast. I didn't do any prep, and I'm just annihilating the concept of free will right now. Let's see. Let's keep going. Compatibilists believe that freedom can be present or absent in situations for reasons that have nothing to do with metaphysics. Yeah, for sure. In other words, that causal determinism does not exclude the truth of possible future outcomes. Because free will is seen as a necessary prerequisite for moral responsibility, compatibilism is often used to support compatibility between moral responsibility and determinism. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because that's the main problem with determinism. Okay. And the second word of the day is afflatus. 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 Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus.
Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus. Afflatus.
That's really hard because I have to click it right before the downbeat. So it's like
Afflatus. 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 Afflatus.
afflatus means a strong creative impulse, especially as a result of divine inspiration. I read this in the book I'm reading about British 20th century artist in reference to Kandinsky, Vasily Kandinsky, who is not a British artist, but German, right? I think he was German. He might have had another place he was from. I think he was German, and Vasily. It's kind of a German name. Yeah, so bleep, bloop, bloop. And then they had like someone else explaining similar spiritual artistic concepts, and they were like, it was without the afflatus of Kandinsky or something. So breath or a blast of wind. That's beautiful. You know, that's just a beautiful word, afflatus.
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 I wonder if the guy who recorded that, was that a guy? Does he ever come back just to listen to himself?
Afflatus.
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 Afflatus. So that is the word of the day segment. Thank you so much for watching that word of the day segment. I think we all had a great time. So good job putting that one together, Donna. Even though it's from stuff I read, it's still Donna puts together the word of the day segment. I'll just be talking. Oh, I read the word afflatus, and then they're like, oh, you know, I'm gonna throw that in the word of the day segment. So that kind of takes a little bit out of my hands in that regard. So that's kind of nice. All right, so now we're into the desk section. So welcome to the desk section. First desk on the agenda today is the Art Desk X Workers' Rights Desk. That's right. We got I find them to be compatible today. We got the Arts Desk and the Workers' Rights Desk collaborating, and that's what the X means. Arts Desk X Workers' Rights Desk. It's something you see in fashion. It's very hip. First thing there, 3 workers at New York's Noguchi Museum fired after wearing keffiyehs on the job. This is big news. You might have seen this if you're at all looking at art news. It actually was, big news. This is a huge museum, a very well-known museum in New York. And these employees were fired for wearing keffiyeh, which is a garment symbolic of Palestinian culture. I believe this is what a keffiyeh is, or it's possible this is as well. I apologize if I'm mistaken in some way. Point is, They're worn by Palestinian people, probably by other people as well, and they're also probably worn by people just supporting the Palestinian cause. I don't know. I support the Palestinian cause. I would feel weird wearing a keffiyeh, so I don't know if people do that. But whether these people were wearing them because it's part of their heritage or because they were supporting Palestine, it doesn't matter. I mean, those are both valid reasons. I mean, it's not the museum's job to say that those are not valid. A Palestinian person could be like, actually, don't wear it just to support us, please. It's not ideal. But the museum, that's not their place to say that. Artists, the director of visitor services was terminated. Wow. They're demanding the ouster of the director of the museum. Wow. They're deciding that Palestinian culture is political, essentially. So they're saying, oh, you can't wear it because it's political. Israel's military assaults on Gaza have killed more than 40,000 people since October 7th. 40,000 human beings. But yeah, please tell me those hostages' names and fucking face, show me their face. That's so important. Don't show me the 40,000. So they were, so I mean so basically within days 54 of the museum's 72 employees signed a petition in protest of the ban on keffiyehs. It's saying it I mean this museum is really screwing up. Gallery attendance, and I mean, these are people, I mean, I don't know what to say. I didn't. Capellini was told of her termination during a meeting with Howe and an external HR consultant. In an audio recording of that meeting, the consultant can be heard incorrectly calling Capellini by the name Danielle. They didn't even know my name. They just saw keffiyeh and wanted it gone. Wow. And Noguchi, who the institution is, not just named after, but I'm sure funded by their legacy, I assume. In 1942, voluntarily interned at the Post-War Relocation Center in Arizona, one of several prison camps built to confine Japanese citizens and American citizens of Japanese descent in the West Coast after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Wow. Noguchi, a New York resident born to Japanese father and American mother, was exempt from the directive. Wow. And he voluntarily interned. Holy wow. Talk about solidarity. Maybe their museum. I mean, that just goes to show how institutional power ruins things. And next up on the art desk, ex-workers' rights desk, this is a bit more for the petite bourgeois workers. Over 50% of gallerists have a poor work-life balance, with those in the U.S. more acutely affected. So petite bourgeois in the sense that they're owning a business, but it's still not an easy job to make money as a gallerist for sure. So blee blue blah blee blue blop. 49% of responding gallery professionals worldwide felt they had a good work-life balance. Well, I mean, what are the statistics for the regular population? In Europe, 57% said they were content with the equilibrium in their work-life balance. Only 40% in the North America. I wonder if that has to do with healthcare. You don't get healthcare when you run your own business in the U.S. You have to pay for it and get a policy with a low deductible. Costs a lot of money. Okay, pretty small survey, but maybe they should start selling, better art. Pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I'm just kidding. That's mean. Should I say something more interesting? Yeah, I mean, it is interesting the way I could definitely see this. It just creeps into your whole life. The work-life balance is very, very impossible. You're going to dinners with people or you're socializing with people. It's like you're sort of working, you're sort of not a lot of the time. I'm sure there's a lot of back-end administrative stuff. I mean, you got to go into it for the love of the game, that's for sure. And you got to also be kind of wealthy, probably, yeah. All right, so next up we got Another X situation. What is this, Twitter? I know. It's a good one. Actually, Art Desk X, another Art Desk X situation. This is Art Desk X Law Desk. So, if you remember this Banksy piece that was auctioned and then it shredded itself as it was being auctioned, I thought that was pretty cool. Two men accused of stealing the painting from a London gallery late Sunday night. Wow. Are set to appear before the court next month on charges with non-residential burglary. Wow. So it was recent. I just was confused. Suspects? So it was stolen just so September 30th. So last Sunday. I assume that was just a week ago, in the last week. Picture was stolen late Sunday night from Grove Gallery in New Cavendish Street in central London. Wow. It's the only work stolen, but it wasn't missing for long. By Thursday, police had brought 2 suspects in custody and the painting recovered. How? Court documents. It was priced at $354,000. Oh, it's just a print. I guess. I don't really know. A man dressed in black pants and black hoodie with his face covered, smashing the glass front door of the gallery with a heavy object, then ramming his shoulder into the cracked glass until he could fit through. Once inside, he plucks the picture off the wall and quickly walks out. That's scary. It was shredded on stage after it sold for $1.4 million. That's amazing. That's such a great idea. And then that work was then sold for $25 million. So Banksy really proved his point about the financial speculation and worthlessness of art. Earlier this year, a man in Paris was handed a 2-year suspended sentence for attempting to steal a Banksy work that was stenciled on the back of a parking sign. What if you were just like, I was trying to steal the parking sign. I didn't even know that was art. Do you get a lesser sentence? More recently, Banksy spent part of his summer stenciling images of wildlife. Yeah, I noticed that. Good for him. And then next up on the Art Desk X Law Desk, a Banksy work has been stolen in London again. This is the same thing. I don't know why we have 2 articles about the exact same thing. Oh, okay, a little bit interesting info. The print was part of an edition of 160, and it was valued at, we know, 360 something US dollars. Thank you very much. Okay, well, the bad guys will be punished, and art should only change hands when hundreds of thousands of dollars change hands. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Next up we have, what do we got here? Next up we have, this is going to be good, so get ready for it. The book desk. And we are starting, we are going to go through and we are going to look at which religion is the best in terms of Goodreads reviews. So for the book desk today, we have a great segment. You could say it's a segment within a segment, an SWS, or SWAS within a segment. So SWAS. Sounds like a prefix. I don't want to say the suffix too, if you know what I mean. But which religion is the best? This has been something that has kind of perplexed people for a while. They've said, I look at all the religions, I walk in the supermarket, I see a shelf full of religions, and I think which one's the right one, which one is the correct one for me. So I thought a good way to look at that would be Goodreads reviews to see which has the best score, which holy book has the best score. The holy book is not the religion, I get that. The map is not the territory, as I like to say, man. But the holy book, I think of it as sort of the foundation of the religion. Like a building might have its might have the grass that it sits upon, so too does a religion have the foundational apparatus through which the afflatus of the spirit can dwell, or roam. Probably is a better word for to go along with the word through. So you don't dwell through something. That would be more like you seep through. For the no, that was I already explained it. Okay, so Quran, classic 4.3, not bad. 4.38. We got to get specific with these. 4.38 for the Quran, pretty good, not too bad, by Anonymous with some sort of ghostwriter. Holy Bible, also by Anonymous. Someone's been busy. 4.44, so that's, it might seem like a small difference, but these are small differences. So 4.44, okay, these are, like, it's a world of small differences, so that matters. 0.06. The Tanakh, 4.36, a little bit worse than the Quran. Which is unfair because the Tanakh came first, so they sort of had to get it all going. But anyways, these are objective, obviously, these ratings. Next up, we have the Upanishads, also by Anonymous. Tanakh, also by Anonymous. 4.25 for the Upanishads, a little bit not as good. It's a solid bit less than the Bible. So kind of got to work on there. I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know if it's the plot, character development. We also got the Bhagavad Gita classic, a little bit lower. Yeah, there's some issues in that one. I've read a lot of the Bhagavad Gita, years ago, and it wasn't my thing. I mean, most of these are not my thing, really, actually. Next up we got, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, but the Kitab-i Aqdas. I did think that I was supposed to learn how to pronounce this before going live here. I believe this is the Baha'i Faith. Yeah, this is the Baha'i Faith's holy book, or one of them. I don't know how it works. 4.38, so tied with the Quran. Not too bad. Good job. Next up we got the Popol Vuh. So I had never heard of this. This is the Mayan holy book. 3.76. You have to think there's probably maybe a little bit of like continental sort of, it takes place on the, this continent, the Central American continent. So that's not a continent. I shouldn't have said that. Well, I'm correcting it now, so we don't have to come back to it next time. Then we have the Quran, a different Quran. So this is kind of interesting, and you have to think about that. There are different translations. So this Quran has a 4.45. That's the 0.07. Sorry, I'm just... Sometimes, things just come back to you, when you're not expecting. Point 0.07. It's a 0.07 higher translation, and 0.07 is data that I'm not going to cry again on camera. I don't care if it's good for ratings. Okay. So, the information is what it is here. Some translations get a higher rating, sort of throws into question whether we're determining which religion is best, frankly. The fact that you could have, one Quran get a 4.45, one get a 4.38, sort of throws that into question. The methodology here. But then a 1-star review on this one, I believe, recommended a different Quran. So I checked out this Quran. And I was like, 4.38, that sounds familiar. You know what I mean? but it's a different one, right? Different translator. But look at the ratings and the reviews. It's the exact same ratings and reviews for a different book by a different translator. Same God, I think. 4.38, 4.38. Same number of reviews. So it's like Goodreads sort of treats them as different and sort of treats them as the same, even though they're different. But then this one's different. The study Quran. Maybe these Qurans are similar enough, even though the translation is different, that Goodreads is like, you know, people reviewing one are reviewing the other. And it is complicated because some people are reviewing the Quran and some people are reviewing the translation. So you do get a little bit of, you know, cross-pollination there is probably the best way to put it. Seemingly it says, okay, compare percent of 1-star reviews. You're unbelievable, Donna. You're like putting as much in the script as possible to remind me of him. Compare the percentage of 1-star reviews. I mean, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Maybe this is something that someone should have done. So 6%. Oh, I don't have to do it. It's already there. Okay. 6% on this first Quran. That's just an interesting way to see how many people disliked it. So 6% 1-star reviews. On the Holy Bible, 6% also. 6. And then on the Tanakh, 2%. So a little bit less hate for the Tanakh. On the Upanishads, 1%. So people love the Upanishads or don't hate it. The Bhagavad Gita is going to have a high percent. Oh, only 2%. Okay, and this is, again, just one translation. The Kitab-i Aktas, I'm sorry for mispronouncing it, 4%. Popol Vuh, 2%. Study Quran, 3%. So really it's the Quran and the Bible, and then this other Quran is going to be the same, obviously 6%. So very interesting to gather that information, we're going to call it. And then just like an interesting comment, do we believe this comment? This person on the Quran says, first of all, I take exception to the Quran having an author listing of Allah when God isn't listed as the author of the Bible. Beyond that, blah, blah, blah. So according to this review written in 2009, Goodreads used to have Allah listed as the writer or the author of the Quran, but didn't have God listed as the author of the Bible. So, I mean, this would be a weird thing to lie about, right? So it's like, if they're telling the truth, that's really funny that Goodreads would have done that. That seems like you would not list. I mean, you would at least be consistent about it, but probably best to just write anonymous, even if that, you know, annoys people. Because writing God as the author probably gets you into, you're essentially making a theological claim there. I don't know if it's controversial, honestly. But yeah. Okay, so that's the Goodreads, that's the book desk, and I hope we all had a good time there. That I think we learned a lot. So, yeah. All right, what else do we got here? Musical interlude. We'll count the Afflatus jam as the musical interlude for today, so no worries about that. But that will be something we're going to be doing more. I know it's been a little slipshod. Probably not the right word. But should we start the takeover? No? Okay. Start the take over again. Not that we should start taking over or something. You know, should we start the takeover of the other? You know, should we start the takeover of that other podcast? Oh, am I recording? You know what I mean? Oh, should we? I don't. You know, should we dominate Lex Friedman? I don't know. Lex Friedman is going to be our guest next week. I'm going to be interviewing him about whether religions are actually temporal fascinations I'm taking this Lex Friedman joke in a direction I don't know where it's going, and I was trying to connect it to religion. It doesn't make any sense. Let's move on. Closing the loop desk. This is sort of an important thing. So we're actually adding this to the desk section. So I should have done it before the musical interlude, because technically, you wouldn't want the interlude to be in the middle of the desk section. Technically. So this is going to be a desk from now on, closing the loop desk, because if you've been a long-time listener and watcher, you know that this podcast, I'm not going to say we have a bit of an issue, or have had. Let me put this in the most delicate way possible, because people's feelings get hurt. We have struggled with a challenge related to the limited nature of our capacity with regards to closing loops. And it's sort of been a part of a working memory challenge. And also, we've tried to frame it as like we're helping the audience build their distress tolerance, but it's gotten out of hand. And I know there's a lot of things that are brought up and then we don't come back to them. And that is beyond unintentional. It is so vastly unintentional. Like, it is so, we would never do that intentionally. If we bring something up, we're always going to speak to it when we say we will. We've not been as consistent on that front as we would like here at the VJPP, but no, it's podcast production. But it's something where we're going to figure out a better system here. Sorry, just tapping my coffee cup. So we have a closing the loop desk. So this will always be a desk within the episode. So anything that was brought up that we said we would come back to, we then will come back to, always in this closing the loop desk. So let me close the loop on something from last episode. So why I ran out of milk, I was talking about drinking seltzer because I didn't have milk to put in my coffee, and I maybe had some black coffee. I forget the exact order of operations, but I did end up drinking seltzer. So I was talking about, it was a fascinating story. I actually ran out of milk. When I said that, I think I was remembering a story someone else had told me about milk. Because when I tried to think back to it, there actually wasn't, I don't think there was actually a story there, because it was just that I had been drinking milk more and like hadn't made it to the store. I think I had just made cereal or something, unexpectedly. So I apologize for, no, this is not an apology. This is a closing of the loop. There's no apology needed. I was told. So, but I did run out of milk I have milk now, so I don't even, Okay, patron shout out. Thank you so much to the patrons. We love our patrons, the people who support this. And this is not just on Patreon, let me tell you. This is actually all over the world, or all over the internet. But I'll start with the Patreon people. On Patreon, we got Miranda, Ruben, Ibnomad, Peter, Oliver, MK, Matt, Scott, Noah, Anastasios, TVgos, Linguist, Sam, King Margot, Tom, Stephanie, Verbal Gerbil, Miles, Hugh, Donovan, Redgrove, Elemancy, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog, Jen, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Gav45 Surut, Ryan, Madeline, John, Dependency Injector, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Molly, Kyle, Ashley, Jack, Scott, Luca, Isaiah, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and User. And the YouTube members, we got Sadie, Eva, Jifa, Simply Snaps, Finesse Cat, Jaden, Trusty Ghost, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Feel free to give me money. Give me a lot of money. I like to buy things. I like to get food. I like to pay rent. And Mailbag, we don't have anything. No one sent in anything. So we're all done. And I will catch you on the flippity flop. What an ep, right? What an ep. Feel free to write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to say what an ep. What an app.
This is a podcast or something like that.